Today has been already a pretty long day, so if you're joining me now for this aftermath of the sentencing today, welcome. We're going to break down some of the things that we didn't talk about before the sentencing and then what happened after the sentencing. But some of the things that we had talked about going into it was that Kaylee's father had been doing interviews after interviews from the very beginning. And a lot of this stuff ended up getting kind of wrapped up with the no speaking order on all the different things. But the second that was lifted, he's been going out. He has been very angry about the fact that they did a plea deal with Bryan. He told multiple news stations that he would not be at sentencing today, and there was no point. So it was pretty shocking when he ended up being there. And he didn't just end up being there. He was a loud figure in all of this. And his daughter was as well, Kaylee's sister. I mean, right now, the most people say the daughter slash Kaylee's sister's speech was the most impactful. And I am thinking so, yeah. I mean, she not only went after him, and so that's, good for her getting it all out there, but she also said things that were really poignant about who he was and what he was doing, and not just calling him names just to call names, which she did in some parts, but she had a very good idea of his psyche and used it for her to be able to lay everything out to him. I thought she did a really good job. So we're gonna be checking that out. We'll be checking the dad's out. Like I said, he wasn't supposed to be there. So first thing though I want to do is let's go to, I guess I was going to do someone's first, but let's go to theirs first because that was crazy and big. Move myself to the corner. Also, I'm really happy that they decided to show up and be there for all of this. It was good to represent, even so they feel like they were slighted. It's good that they showed up and represented for Kaylee and for the other three. It's a lot. All right. Let me go ahead and find
shows
them.
together.
Give me 1 second.
I told her if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know and I'll get you tickets for.
Sociopath.
I wasn't going to start with them. That's why I don't have it ready.
As bare and as naked,
What's wrong with you?
they would have shown mercy.
Okay.
But we took this disaster.
He starts.
There's
first.
one thing, you know when it's going to happen and, it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But, a life without parole with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore. Winking at every morning, not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So, I don't know. I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, if you didn't watch any of that, that was Maddie's biological dad. He gave a very, sorry, I'm trying to pull up my chat, so in case.
Your Honor, next would be members from the Kaylee
This speech
Gonsalves
was
family.
interesting.
First will be her father, Steve Gonsalves.
All right, here comes Kaylee's.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. The wrong state, the wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you. I just learned from these lead investigators, to their shock, they worked in an investigation and actually worked with Pennsylvania police officers and the federal FBI. You united everyone. Everyone was united after you. None of us are divided. We are united in our disgust and our love for these children. Today you have no name. Because when this all started, we all came together and we said, let's stop even talking about his name and just use initials. So even the media just calls you BK. That's all you are. Looking back when the police officers knocked on my door, told me what happened to my child, told me what happened to Maddie Mae, I don't think he was even out of the driveway before my kids turned around, looked at me and said, what do we do, Dad? I told them, you get to work. You get your ass to work. And we started calling, we started texting, we started emailing. And you know what? Within hours, we had your white car on the camera. We knew from the very beginning we had you. Police officers tell us within minutes they had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid. Master degree, you're a joke, a complete joke. But we took this disaster and we did what we could. We put everything online. We took our kids, we took our images, we took everything that they did, their videos, their photos, the girls' pranks, Ethan singing. We put it out there, we shared it with the world. And the world united. And all they ended up, when they talked about this case, is they talked about Kaylee Jade, Maddie Mae, Xana, and Ethan. Everything what these people meant to us, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, we shared that with our community. Then we shared it with our state. We shared it with the country, and eventually we shared it with the world. The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but two initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we've all started. From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing one last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to the pen. That will be today or tomorrow. I'll close with, God bless all the men and women that worked on this case and all the hard work that you guys did. You guys allowed us to grieve and allowed us to get through this. The amount of work that you guys put together and the way that you guys put it together was beautiful. There was hard times to be expected, but thank you all. God bless.
Thank you.
All right, so before we watch Olivia's, so there's the dad. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was there. He decided to speak. I think that was great. Olivia is a sister for Kaylee. She's up next. I forgot to say, we were looking during the live of all of this to see if Bryan's family was there, and it didn't look like it. Yes, his mom and his sister was there, and we will be talking about this after we're done with this part of the video. So that's coming up. But for Olivia, when she was doing her speech to him, everybody is convinced that he was smiling / like snickering. I'm putting up right now in the background so you can see his face. He made this face while she was doing her speech and saying her statement. And what do you think? I can kind of see it. I had his face blown up on my other computer just so I could be watching, and he really didn't make any faces. So even so, this is very minimal. I think that it is something, which is crazy. And it's the only time he made this face. So while we're watching her, I'm going to see if I can see it on my computer having it blown up. It's not the best quality because so many people were tuned in live for this. So hopefully it will get a little bit better with more quality and time people putting videos out. But yeah, if you see this, stay looking. Let me know what you think. All right, go ahead and watch Olivia now.
Your Honor, next is Stephen Gonsalves, Kaylee's brother.
Stephen's actually going to pass. I'm going to go. Okay.
Olivia Gonsalves, Kaylee's sister.
Hello. I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Gonsalves, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogan as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief. I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were two pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would, that I would fight for them, that I would show up no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them, and not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across, what would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment, my wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze?
Okay, a couple things. So yes, he was a wannabe rapper. I've seen some pictures. I haven't seen anything beyond that. Pictures of him as a teenager pretending or trying to be. She asked about why November 13th. They are linking his case to another case of a gentleman who did a killing spree, I guess you could say. And he supposedly looked up to him, and that guy did it on November 13th, and so did Bryan Kohberger. So they're trying to see if there was that connection or not. It has not been officially confirmed, but they think it is.
Such a severe case of visual snow. Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light. You thought you were exceptional, all because of a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your online IQ test from 2010 told you so.
It was kind of quick, but if you didn't hear, I can't say the word so I don't get flagged, but he was a user of H for quite a while and supposedly got clean not that long ago.
All of that effort just to seem important. It's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and still all it took was my sister in a sheath. You work so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, good clap. I think she was the first one that people started clapping for, but there were others that got claps as well. So pretty powerful considering that family maybe wasn't going to be there at all. They are the only ones who took the positions that they did. They decided that they were going to be defiant, if you will. They weren't going to pour their hearts out and cry while they were standing there in front of him. And they refused to be victims in that. We're going to go ahead and watch their talking. I believe it's just the parents. This is right after the sentencing. So let's see what Kaylee's parents have to say.
The families as they answer your questions. Thanks so much.
Well, it's almost been 3 years, and today's the end of a long, hard-fought battle. But we have our person, and we have him where he belongs. So for that, we are thankful for all the men and women that put the work together, put this case together, and once it's part of the court system, it was a little ugly, but we got that conviction, and we're glad to be moving on. Glad we can move on.
Steve, the family or the judge talked about how we may never know why, and it may not be worth it to try to answer the why for something so senseless. You can't make sense of it. What do you feel about that?
There's some truth to that, but then, there's also the fact that, what would he tell as a lie as to opposed to the truth, so.
The knife, if he gave the knife up, or if he gave a part of his kill kit, if he gave out facts that only the killer would know,
it would corroborate things.
It would corroborate things, and he even addressed there's been way too many conspiracies, and the surviving witnesses had to go through hell. Well, no better way to protect them than by getting some of those details. If you got those details, then as simple as just saying I did it solo would have been, valuable, I think. And we stand by the negotiation wasn't justice. It was just It was a shortcut, and we said from the very beginning we're not interested in a shortcut for our daughter. And we wanted everything.
Steve, you turned the podium at one point. Talk to us about why you wanted to stare him face to the
Because he's a coward. He's been protected by the court from day one, the minute that he was arrested. So I wanted to let him know that I was directing everything towards him, and his days of being protected are coming to an end. From what I've been explained, he gets on a van today, and he's got like 11, 12-minute ride, and then he'll be the responsibility of Idaho State.
Were you planning on turning the podium though, or did you do that in the moment?
I remember reading it saying "do not move," so I was like, well, I'm moving this. I just kind of made that decision right then and there. So, I want to make it as difficult as possible. I knew my daughter was going to do a speech, and I'd heard it, and I was like, he's going to hate this. He's going to hate this next set of people that are going to come forward and really rip into him and really expose him for what kind of a piece of trash he was. And we've been waiting a long time to say some of those things that needed to be said.
Stephen Jr., you chose not to speak. Do you want to speak now? Is there anything to say?
I've written up a statement. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe this is where you do.
Okay. Well, allow me a second.
Maybe it wasn't court appropriate.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. Yeah, my name's Steve Gonzalez. I'm Kaylee's older brother. She was my little sister, my friend, the middle child in the heart of our family. There are no words that can fully describe her spirit, but if you knew her, you knew joy, you knew light, you knew someone who made everything better just by being in the room. My statement was largely grounded in one goal, and that was to do everything for anyone who listens to this and has to go through something similar to not have to endure what we had. My family's fought tirelessly, not just for answers, but for accountability. We've stood in front of cameras, behind closed doors, and across from people who didn't want us to speak, but we did, and we won't stop now. Across nearly every murder case prosecuted by Bill Thompson, including the killing of University of Idaho football player Eric McMillan, there is a clear and troubling pattern. Families are left feeling unheard, justice is negotiated down through plea deals, and the public is left with unanswered questions. In the McMillan case, charges were reduced from first-degree to second-degree murder, prompting confusion and outrage from the victim's family and community. The same pattern is emerged in the Silas Parks and John Lee cases, both of which prosecuted by Bill Thompson, where capital-eligible crimes were resolved through plea agreements, sidestepping trials and diminishing public accountability. The most egregious of these crimes was the brutal killing of Whitney Parks, a young pregnant woman whose life was taken by her husband Silas Parks during a violent domestic assault. Whitney was only 22 years old. Whitney was beaten and strangled in her own home, an act of cruelty that not only ended her life, but also the life of her unborn child. And yet, despite the devastating nature of this crime, Bill Thompson reduced the charges from murder to voluntary manslaughter, ultimately securing a sentence that allowed Parks the possibility of parole after just 5 years. There was no trial, no full accounting of what Whitney endured, no acknowledgement in the legal outcomes of the child she was carrying. For Whitney's family, and for anyone who believes that justice system should speak forcefully for victims, this wasn't justice. It was a deal, and it was like so many others under Thompson's watch. It prioritized expedience over accountability. Now, almost predictably, we find ourselves reliving that pattern in the current case. Despite the magnitude and brutality of the crime, the prosecution chose to accept a plea deal behind closed doors, without trial, without ever consulting our family in any meaningful way. In fact, we learned from the plea deal that had been finalized from an email from the prosecution team. Not in person, not with warning, not with respect. That moment underscored what we feared all along, and that this case was following the same well-worn path toward expedience over justice. Sentencing once again fails to reflect the severity of the act, and the emotional fallout has landed again on the shoulders of the victims' families, who have been left out, unheard, and grieving not just a horrific loss, but a system that continues to bypass them. The through line is undeniable. Whether it's 2004 or 2025, this prosecutor prosecutional, is that a word? Sorry. Prosecutional approach has consistently abandoned the very approach it is, or the very people it is supposed to protect. The trend you'll notice from Thompson's prosecuted crimes are the following: plea bargains avoiding capital punishment, charge reductions, sentences that misalign with the gravity of the crime, lack of trial due to plea bargains. These aren't just failures in process, they're failures that have real consequences for real people. After reviewing Bill Thompson's history, it's clear our family was never given a fair chance at justice. But this isn't just about a prosecutor's record, it's about Kaylee. It's about my sister. She's not just one of the Idaho 4. She was a daughter, a sister, a best friend, and the light in every room she walked into. When the prosecution followed the same path we've seen before, closed doors, limited input, and a plea deal handed down without our voice, it became painfully clear that Kaylee was being treated just like another case. But she wasn't. She was everything to us, and our pain has only deepened, knowing that the system didn't fight for her the way she deserved. I'll leave everyone with this. There's 1,000 things I wish I could say to Kaylee, but today I'll just say this. I will always carry her with me for the rest of my life, and I will never stop being her brother.
Steve,
thank you.
Now that the gag order is lifted, is there anything that you've learned over the last 2.5 years from the investigators or the prosecutors that you can share with us now that you can speak about?
Well, I think it was kind of interesting that once the president sent a truth statement out, they called us right up and they told us everything. So I don't know what was holding them back before, but we spent about 3 hours, close to 3 hours with the lead detectives, and we found because our main thing was we didn't want to have victims advocate statements that had lies and misquotes and misinformation in it. So I appreciate the president, putting a little bit of pressure on there, and it seemed to work. Up until that time, they told us they were not going to tell us, and we were going to have to just wait for for the things to be unsealed. But yeah, it was horrific what Kaylee went through. And I don't want to protect.
So I can see why the brother decided not to read his victim impact statement. I feel like it was calling for an overhaul of the entire department and not just really focusing on the matter at hand. It was a whole bunch of things. So makes sense now. Something that they're talking about that I was going to get into is after it was announced that he is taking this plea deal, there was so much outrage because in the plea deal, there was no steps for him to be able to be forced to say, anything, answers about any of it. Why? How long did it take? What were you thinking? Just like the sister was asked or asking him. It's really uncommon that happens in something like this. They usually have something tied in there. So it was, people were making uproar. They were definitely very upset, the family members, and President Trump even wrote out that he wanted the judge to try every avenue, as long as it's legally, but try every avenue to find a way that they can get some of the answers that they deserve, the families. We'll see if that actually ever happens. Obviously, Bryan today said he respectfully declines. So it might not ever happen. I would be surprised. I actually thought he did more today than what I thought he was going to. He actually looked like he was listening and engaged. I kind of expected him to pull a Monica Cementilli and just stare at a wall, but he didn't. He was listening. You'll have to write me in the comments. Let me know if you saw that smirk when Olivia was talking. I didn't really see it, but again, quality, just because a mass amount of people watching this, was bad. So, all right. So we did see that his mom and his sister was there. I have the website up. Unfortunately, so many ads, but let me get this all moved over so you can see better. So in the beginning, probably the first or second person to be up there talking, that is when he must have felt comfortable enough or settled enough that he then finally attempted to look into the gallery. And it was brief, but he did look around. And I questioned if any of his family happened to be there. Maybe he was looking for them, but then I didn't really see them. But yeah, they were there. He had an opportunity when he was leaving to be able to turn and see them, and he did not. So that one look in the very beginning of the sentencing is when he saw them, and that was that. His sister and him look very similar. I just want to point that out. She has done some acting, very like, you know, not the star or anything in the background. She's also a counselor. Supposedly with all of this, she had said from the beginning she could see him doing something like this. And it is rumored that she is going to be writing a book. So frustrating. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, they didn't talk. So Maddie's grandma, this is her in the picture. This was the only person today that I saw when they were talking that I felt like had Bryan showed any emotions, anything, it would be to her. He was definitely listening. You know, there's nothing so obvious, but I think she really struck a chord with him. And I was saying, I think it's because maybe his mom's a little bit older. The reason why he went into this plea deal and accepted was for his mom, because he did not want her to take the stand and have to testify on their conversations and things like that. We're kind of looking at a Brian Laundrie type thing. Like, did his parents know and not turn him in? Potentially. Potentially that's exactly what happened. We maybe will never know. But yeah, this is her grandma. Definitely seemed to be impactful. Nothing overly outrageous. Just he seemed to be just a little bit more engaged with her. We have to officially wait for, you know, where he's going. But it is said that he's going to be going to the most restricted lockdown prison in Idaho. Good. Yeah, he has a 2-week evaluation, because if he would harm himself or was feeling that way, he has to be dealt with in a different manner for the first few weeks. So yeah, that is all the information I currently have. There's more on just his mannerisms and things like that during the actual sentencing and listening to people. Even with his attorneys, I see the blonde attorney there, and I remembered I want to talk about her, but in a different video. I'm going to do one just about probably his behaviors and everything throughout this entire day. We need the behavioral panel to do this too. I love watching them. It would be great for something like this. Someone who doesn't really move that much, isn't really like drawing attention, so it's hard to tell what he's thinking or feeling. And if I could notice a couple things, I'm sure they would pick up way more things. So hopefully they do that, but that will be for a different video. I have something about this attorney and the other attorney that sat on his left side, or when we're looking the right side. She did something interesting during the sentencing, and so that will be wrapped up in there too. All right, well, if you've been on with me today, thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a long day. I wish that the families could have all felt like they got real justice, but I am happy that this is over, in the sense that they do not have to keep reliving this heartache and pain for another who even knows. You know, they could always appeal and do all of that, and it would be a living hell, frankly. So all right, I will be back on later today, and I will probably be doing the behavior video for the sentencing tomorrow. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.